Middleweight title fight was the main event. Dricus du Plessis gets the job done over 5 rounds. Sean Strickland stood in front of him. He talked the talk throughout the whole course of the week, buddy. But he didn't walk the walk. What was this?
It was absolutely painful, Adam. That is probably the end of Sean Strickland's title ambitions, 100%. Would you say?
So now, let's get back to giving Dricus du Plessis fighters that have the equal mindset to him. Finishers, people like Khamzat Chimaev. That's the next step for the division. That's what I want to see happen. Outside of John Jones and Tom Aspinall in the heavyweight division, the biggest fight that the UFC can make is Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Welcome to Uncaged on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure to be with you. And look at this, Sunday, getting it to you thick and fast when the conversation's happening. Joining me live from his presidential suites in the Middle East, the one, the only, Mr. Brendan Loughnane. How are you, bud?
The office is coming on well. You like it, Adam? You know what I need, though? I like the way you've got them things in the back. See, like you've got a little bit of memorabilia and that's the next stage.
With all due respect, I think you've got a bit more better memorabilia than me, mate. You've got world title belts, you've got $1 million comedy checks. You can stick them all up in the back of that and make it look mint, couldn't you?
That's a good point. Right, watch your space, guys.
Get the belt up. What are you doing? I'm surprised you're not glossing and got it in the back. It should be there, mate.
That's a good point, Adam. You are right on that one.
Listen, we're here on a Sunday because obviously UFC 312 went down in Sydney, Australia. We've got 2 title fights to get through in the main card, and we'll sprinkle a little bit of prelims in there as well. And, just in case you missed it, Dustin Poirier rocked up on talkSPORT this week. That's right, because it's Super Bowl Sunday. That's when we're bringing you this show. He's out for the Super Bowl, checking out in New Orleans, and he popped up on the Drive Time show, so you can hear him a little bit later on in this program as well. Right now, though, we're going to get stuck into a full review of UFC 312. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, all that nice stuff, so therefore you never miss out on any of the content that we bring your way. Right. Middleweight title fight was the main event. Dricus du Plessis gets the job done over 5 rounds. I said it would be a grinder. I said it would go the distance. I said it would be a long one. Sean Strickland stood in front of him. He talked the talk throughout the whole course of the week, buddy. But he didn't walk the walk. What was this? I thought we were going to death. I thought we were going to the death. What was it?
It was absolutely painful, Adam. I think we were right about the whole card. I think we was right. We called it as it is. You know, we've seen it before, and it didn't deliver in my eyes, especially the main event. It was a walkthrough. Sean Strickland said he's going to do this and that, and guess what he did, Adam? Absolutely nothing. He didn't. He just got walked through, and that is probably the end of Sean Strickland's title ambitions. Would you say?
Let's be dead straight about it. We'll do Strickland first because I think we'll spend a minimal amount of time on the Strickland situation, then we'll move into Dricus and what could be coming next, right? Because I do feel a little bit for Dricus in this scenario because, as I pointed out last week, the man is a finisher. He's a super entertaining fighter, but if your dance partner doesn't necessarily want to be super entertaining, it's very difficult to look flashy. Get to that in a minute. On the Sean Strickland thing, he's had his moment in the sun. Let's be dead honest about this. With all due respect, did any of us 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever this happened, think that Sean Strickland would ever be fighting for a UFC world title? The reason why he got to fight for a UFC world title is because Israel Adesanya was lapping the division. He'd wiped everybody out. There was nobody else. He was ranked number 8 at the time. So that is how he got his shot. Now, don't get me wrong. He took his shot. But he took his shot against an Israel Adesanya that had just put his heart and soul into a rematch with Alex Pereira and left a little piece of himself in that rematch, getting himself over that line. Strickland took advantage of that. Don't get me wrong. He wins, gets his moment, becomes the champion. Didn't defend it. Lost the first defense to Dricus du Plessis in a fight which meant an incredible amount to Dricus du Plessis. First South African fighter to become UFC champion. I'll be honest. Dricus, this time last year, did fight a little bit within himself, so therefore the fight itself was a little bit close. Dricus showed the real Dricus when he turned up against Israel Adesanya and submitted him and took him out. And now he showed an even more developed wrinkle to his game in this particular title fight against Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, with all due respect, has had his moment. He's popped his head above the parapet at his time, but I think you're right in saying his time in title contention is absolutely done. I think now that this scenario is complete, we have got the potential of having some absolute bangers at 185. we've got Khamzat on the horizon. Imovov's come through after his brilliant win over Israel Adesanya. Caio Borralho's there on the horizon as well, looking down that hill, wanting a shot. I personally think Dricus du Plessis is super entertaining. He's only been to the judges' scorecards on 3 occasions in his whole career. 25 fights the lad's had. 3 occasions he's been to the cards. 2 of them with Sean Strickland because Sean Strickland didn't really want to dance with him. So now let's get back to giving Dricus du Plessis fighters that have the equal mindset to him. Finishers, people like Khamzat Chimaev. That's the next step for the division. That's what I want to see happen. I did feel for him a little bit last night, Bren, I'll be honest with you, mate, because he was pushing it. I thought he was a little bit more conservative with his defence, and he was looking for those moments. But the moments didn't come because Sean Strickland does have supreme defence, and he didn't necessarily want to engage.
Yeah, wait, mate, you laid it down perfect there. But I'm just glad now that this has all been ironed out. You know, with Strickland getting that win over Izzy, that just threw a massive spanner in the works, didn't it, Adam? And it created this like, oh, we all need rematches now. Now that it's all been ironed out, yeah, you've got Dricus, you've got Khamzat, you've got Caio, you've got the real fights now that are about to unfold. This division is supremely exciting. We've just not got to see it yet because people was ironing out rematches and victories. It's all done now. And wow, Dricus and Khamzat, yeah. I mean, I just watched the post-fight press conference before we came on here, and Dana White said, Dricus is like watching a white guy dancing. And it is, Adam, we can't work out what we're seeing, but we're seeing something special, and it works.
But from your point of view, what you watched last night with the way that he approached that fight, because he wasn't as wild, he was a little bit more considered with his stuff.
True.
Surely you were looking at that going, do you know something? He's actually a really smart fighter, this guy. He applied himself, I thought, a lot better in the fight last night. Even though it wasn't entertaining and there's no finish there, I actually thought he applied himself a lot better.
Well, do you know what it is, Adam? I've actually cornered against him for Darren Till. Yeah. I've been there. I've been this close. I've watched it with my own 2 eyes. I've been pretty much in the ring with him, seeing it. And, like, I'm saying to Darren in between rounds, what are you doing? Come on. He's got an awkward timing, an awkward rhythm. And you know what? He's giving the best guys in the world hell. He is. He's making guys like Izzy, like these guys that are just really technical, great strikers, and he's really offsetting the rhythm and the range. He's disrupting it. And I think last night was the most polished version I've seen of him. And it's really getting me excited for it because he's got one time he's been finished with Soldic and KSW. I've seen that. So I have seen the holes. Looks like he's tightened them up. That's why we need this Khamzat fight, Adam. We need this Khamzat fight, and we need it ASAP.
And he is proven, I think, on countless occasions in previous fights, maybe not necessarily the ones against Sean Strickland. The man's willing to go to some seriously deep waters. I mean, I know you mentioned the Till fight. Till won that second round against him, and he gave him a little bit of a striking masterclass. If you go and look at Derek Brunson ragdolls him for the first 5 minutes before Dricus then goes, okay, sound, we're all swimming here, are we? This is how we'll rock and roll. He has been in deep waters in the UFC, and he just keeps coming through. I need to see him versus Khamzat. I'm going to make a big statement here, mate. Right, massive statement. Forget the multi-weight jump ups, right? Because you've heard me speak about Ilya maybe fighting Islam as a potential blockbuster fight. Forget the multi-weight jump ups and all that. When we're just talking about lads that are currently competing in divisions right now, outside of John Jones and Tom Aspinall in the heavyweight division, the biggest fight that the UFC can make is Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. I think it's absolutely massive. You've got 2 big personalities with big followings in their respective places, 2 lads that love finishing, 2 lads that will rock the microphone, and their fighting styles just have me salivating. It is a blockbuster, and I hope that they make it for the summer of this year. I think it could be absolutely fantastic.
Do you know what? My brain just started going, which one's bigger? Which one's bigger? Which one's bigger? And I couldn't come to any conclusion. No. You're right.
The big one in the heavyweights.
All
the big boys in the heavyweights. And obviously you've got multi-weights where people can jump up in weight, and that might get you excited if Ilya's going to fight Islam or Islam's going to fight whoever. Whatever.
That's true.
But in their division, there is no bigger fight the UFC can make.
And do you know why? It's got such a story behind it. You've got this guy, Khamzat Chimaev, who's just whitewashing everyone, breaking Robert Whittaker's jaw in the first round, looking incredible. And then you've got Dricus, who's just winning at him. He just wins. He finds a way to win. He's into them trenches. He really is a trenchman. He is about that life. A lot of people talk about being
He
about that
is.
life, Adam, and guess what? He actually is about that life. Put him in a fifth round with anyone, mate, and he's up for it. He's never going to quit. And that is what is exciting, because if there's one criticism we have of Khamzat Chimaev is he gets tired in the later round. There we go. I took the words out of your mouth. And if, big if, Dricus can take him there, because we know Khamzat's a finisher and an early finisher. If he can take him there, wow.
Mate.
Wow. We're going to see fourth and fifth round. I'm here for it. Get the popcorn out, lads.
That. Imagine if the second round starts in that fight, then you've got a fight on your hands, because we don't know. We still don't know if Khamzat's tank's there. We don't know. We saw him brilliant against Robert, like you've just said. But can he go in the next 5 minutes? I know Dricus can. Mate, deal me in. It's a super fight.
We've seen shades of it in the Usman fight, didn't we? You know, Usman took him into deep waters, and Usman took it on very short notice, and is a weight
there you go,
below.
he's a welter.
Yeah, exactly, Adam. Exactly. So you've got a big, strong South African juggernaut who knows about the trenches, and you are right. Now that you've said it, I can't think of a bigger fight. I really can't. Apart from John Jones,
outside that, park it to one side.
Yeah,
that is the biggest fight to make. I think
right.
Dricus du Plessis, Khamzat Chimaev is an absolute monster of a fight. And whilst we're going at it, then you could do Imavov and Borrello as the other eliminator, of which then sorts them out for the fight after that. Middleweight. So now that we've got this out the way, middleweight is exciting. I can see the horizon.
Can I ask you something? What's next for Sean Strickland here now? Where does he go? It's tough, isn't it? It's really tough.
But would you run back Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland?
Probably, yeah. Well, they're in a very similar position.
He said last night when he was interviewed, because his fight with Kelvin Gastelum has entered the Hall of Fame. Rightfully so. Absolute blockbuster of a fight. And Israel Adesanya was interviewed last night, and he said, listen, I ain't going anywhere. I'm going to continue on. Which is, listen, it's good to hear, because I think you're a long time retired man. Keep cracking on. Keep cracking.
Hey, you've changed your tune.
No, I said, off the back of the Imavov fight, he's nothing left to prove. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to prove anything to me. But I think off the back of the Imavov fight, that you can absolutely look at that and say, for 5 minutes, he was in control. He didn't reset off the eye poke.
Yeah.
And he got clipped off a very, very good lad. That's elite MMA, man. That's elite MMA. Would you run back that? Would you maybe put Sean in with Robert Whittaker? There's fights. Listen, there's fights. There's contender fights there. Absolutely, there's contender fights there. But I just think that at the top of the tree, he's got to win at least 2 or 3 back-to-back in order to get himself back in this mix. It's not one and you're back in. There's a few.
I think you're absolutely bang on. I mean, I don't know when the UFC is back in Australia. I don't know how long. Did they do 1 a year, maybe 2 a year? I think I'd try and save a Strickland Adesanya fight, because I feel like the UFC owes it to Adesanya, you know, as a rematch. I'm sure he wants to get that one back. Out of all of them, I'm sure he wants to get that particular fight back. And I think that's the fight to make. That's a good call. I think they're both on similar trajectories right now. You know, they're both coming off losses, pretty dominating. Well, you know, Izzy got finished, but Strickland was dominated. So I feel like they're both in similar positions within the title contention talk. So I feel like between them two, and even the backstory, even the press conferences, I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Listen, I know that Dricus du Plessis did call out Alex Pereira on the microphone because he was in attendance last night. But when I did speak to Dricus in the build-up to this, I liked the noise that he made of, listen, you need to defend the belt at least 3 times before you even talk about going up. There's plenty of wicked fights because the landscape of my division is changing. I want to be the most dominant guy of my division before I do anything else. So I think, listen, he ain't going to 205 as of yet. There's plenty of business for Alex Pereira to get on with Magomed Ankalaev. And I think 185 right now is red hot. We've named 3 fighters there. Any single one of them, I'm delighted if Dricus faces them next. But in particular, Khamzat Chimaev, I think it's an absolute blockbuster of a fight. Co-main, you
no one's ever going to beat her, ever.
Listen, we know, and you know it in particular because you've been in gyms with her, and I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time around the UFC PI when she was working out of there. Zhang Weili must be the hardest working athlete in MMA. She has a team of people working on all different aspects of this game. The way that she levels up time and time again, and it's evident. The work that this kid does in the darkness enables her to shine in the spotlight, and you're seeing it play out in front of you every single time. And not only that, mate, what I'm loving even more is the work that she's doing on herself in order to make her a more viable thing for the fans worldwide. Her English is getting miles better. She's doing interviews in English now. You know?
Exactly.
She's getting the game. She's becoming a superstar in front of our very eyes. We've seen her fall a couple of times in the UFC, of course. But every single time I watch her, I go, Jesus, Weili, you're getting better, mate. Getting better and better and better. Now, she has a genuine conversation about, does she ever go up? Does she go up in weight and does she challenge for multi-weight status? That's a genuine conversation because Weili is wiping this division out.
I believe that she's the best female fighter, pound for pound, on planet Earth right now. I really do. I just think I've been in the room with Radham. I've seen the work ethic. I've seen what she does to people in training. We've seen it in the cage. She's incredible. I mean, she doesn't really put a foot wrong. And one thing I want to take the chance to say is just a big shout out to Bangtan MMA. She's recently moved over there to Thailand. She's brought her own team with her, but she's also working diligently with the coaches there, Brad Riddell, Frank Hickman, every day, Woody. And I think they've took her to another level again. She loved Thailand. She loved training there. Performance was sensational. And you know what it is, Adam? She took her losses early, the Rose loss, the losses in the beginning. I just can't see anyone beating her now. I just really can't see anybody giving her problems anymore in this division.
I cannot believe that Las Vegas had a betting underdog going into the fight. Incredibly disrespectful. Listen, don't get me wrong, Tatiana Suarez.
Did they actually? Did they? Whoa. Did they actually? Are you joking me?
She was the betting underdog going into
Why didn't someone tell me this yesterday?
Betting underdog going into the fight. I think people got... Listen, everybody fell in love with the Tatiana Suarez story. Obviously, the girl beat cancer early doors. Wow. She was undefeated coming into this fight. Yeah, a lot of people probably were rooting for her to do it and have the romantic moment. But let's be real. I spoke to so many people building into this fight, and they were trying to convince me that Tatiana Suarez was going to beat Weili. And I said, right, how's she going to do it? And they would all obviously make the reference of grappling and wrestling and getting her down on the mat. I said, right, yeah, but you've seen Weili level up every single time she fights. When she's come up against those challenges of wrestling, she's leveled that up. And she proved it again last night. The way that she kept that fight on the feet with just technique, strength, everything about it. When that fight was on the feet, Tatiana Suarez was way out of her depth because Weili just lit her up for fun. And then when the grappling exchanges happened, you think, right, go on then, Tatiana, you've got a moment now. Bar the first round, bar the first 5 minutes, Weili dominated that as well. Unbelievable performance from her.
I mean, I look up and down that division now. I don't see anyone giving her problems for a long time. I know there isn't. There's not even anyone that's poking their head out that you think, you know what, there's a fight to make. Like, who does she even fight next?
So, does she go up in weight? Does she have a go at Shevchenko?
Like, listen, Dana White just got asked the question in the post-fight press conference, which one's better? Who's the better out of them two? And he went, I'm not answering that question. So, in order to answer that question, Adam, they need to fight, don't they? Like, you are night and day, head and shoulders above your division. Like, we're not talking about the Topuris and all that in this world where there's still loads of competition going on. We're talking about you, and then we're talking about the competition. That is when you have to move up in weight or down in weight, and you have to get different looks. You're in a situation now where you've got two female fighters that are head and shoulders above everyone else. You need to fight. Who cares about a kilo here or there? Who's the better martial artist? Let's find out. That's what I think.
Mate, I could not agree more. And I tell you what I'd do, right? I'm going to put you in a bit of a situation here now because I know of your employers and what have you. If I'm the UFC, I get on the phone to Dakota and I say, right, you, got a fight for you. You versus Manon Fiorot. You have that fight. One fight in the UFC. The next fight is for the title. So come in, fight Man and Furo, title eliminator. In the meantime, Shevchenko fights Wei Li. Let's get that on. Absolute blockbuster of the fight. The winner of that takes on Dakota versus Man and Furo. Mate, you've set up now the next 12 months of that division. Beautiful.
Mate, you'll end up getting me to sack you with this podcast.
You don't have to say it. They can see it in your eyes, bro. You don't have to say anything.
God, I like my job at the PFL, but there's some good. I'll give you that one, Adam. That's bang on. And wow, Dakota is definitely in that mix with these girls. I don't care what anybody says. She really is that girl.
Mate, can you imagine?
And there's not many of them about, is there?
Imagine?
There's not many about at her level.
Can you imagine if Wei Li went up, beat Shevchenko, and then Dakota comes in, beats Man and Furo? Can you imagine? Wei Li, Dakota, in China. Mate, it'd just be absolutely astronomical. It'd be off the charts, man. Unbelievable.
She's signed to the PFL, Adam.
Listen, you do the T's and C's, brother. I'll do the dreaming. I'll do the dreaming. We had the big heavyweights on deck as well, obviously on the main card. Justin Taffer taking on.
You called it,
mate. We got one eventually. I know that we don't give the heavyweights the kiss of death, but it did go. I mean, what was it? 35 seconds. Bosh, have a little bit of that.
35 seconds.
Listen. It's nice to have a new heavyweight come in and make a little bit of noise. And I know that obviously Justin Taffer's on the receiving end of this from Teixeira. I'm thinking, I don't know what level he's at. He's a big boy. It's a solid finish. It's a great win away from home. I think there's bigger tests for him to see what level he's at, but it's exciting. The division needs that exciting talent coming through, and he delivered a moment.
Well, we did. We called it, didn't we? We got two swingers who are going to swing. And guess what they did, Adam? They swung. And 35 seconds in, one landed, the other one went to bed. And that's basically what happened, And it is good to have fresh blood in this division because we've talked about it every week that somebody needs to jump out, mate, because there's not much happening. It's a stagnant division right now. He's a big old fella. He's Brazilian and he's hard, mate. So let's see where he can go.
Absolutely. And, well, we had a bit of a contentious one, didn't we, in the Jimmy Crute fight? Because we end up with a draw in the Jimmy Crute fight.
A draw, yes. It doesn't happen,
so we get 29-27, and then we get level scorecards across the board. And the reason for those level scorecards on two of those judges is that they've scored the first round 10-8 in favour of Jimmy Crute, and then they've given it against him in the next two rounds, obviously then levelling it up. I'm going to be honest. I thought that was a little harsh on Jimmy Crute. I actually agree with the 29-27 because I think he takes that second round. I agree with the 10-8 first round. He obviously has his opponent going, doesn't he, in the last couple of minutes. There's a couple of choke attempts. They're not strong, but there's a lot of dominance. He is throwing the damage in from top position. And I think 10-8 is justifiable for the first round for Jimmy. I actually think the second round is close, don't get me wrong. But I think Crute does land the more cleaner, effective work. I think sometimes optics can take over when you're watching a fight because the first round's such a big gap in one way. When the opponent does better and well in the second round, you automatically think, "Oh well, he's won that one. He's just shut the gap." I don't think he overtook the gap to take the round. So for me, I thought Crute took the second round. I can see that maybe he lost the third. 29-27 for me with Jimmy Crute. I thought he was harshly done by there. But I know why they've gone draw, but I think it's harsh.
Yeah, especially with what we were talking about on the build-up, that he just can't find the win, can he? It's like, and then he gets a draw because draws just don't happen.
Mate,
they don't happen.
Only to Jimmy Crute.
It was nice. You know what was nice though? It was nice to see a 10-8 round and judges ballsy enough to give him because it was a 10-8 round, wasn't it? And we just don't see enough of them. Jimmy Crute, man, I feel for you, brother. You didn't quite get the win, but you didn't lose. Do you know what I mean? That's it. What a weird position it is, a draw. What a draw is a weird... It's like, okay, we didn't even fight then. That's what a draw is, isn't it?
Yeah, but look at the faces. They definitely had a fight. And I'm sure that... I'm sure after them leg kicks, there'll be a few people rocking around on crutches as well, mate. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking. You put your camp in, especially Jimmy. You know what I mean? He's been away for a long period of time. He's come back, contemplated retiring. He's come back, put a graft in, dished out 5 minutes of hell, and you think, right, you're on the cusp here. Like I said, I thought he nicked it. and then to come away without the decision. But like you said, he didn't get beat.
What did you think? What did you think of the other Topuria? Shall I give you my
Oh,
thoughts
you're
first?
jumping. Right, okay. Listen, Jake Matthews comes
No,
comes through his fight on the main card. Go on, then. I'll let you get stuck into this. You could get us into trouble.
Yeah, because I want to get into it because, like I said to you, I was hearing, he's the next thing and he's better than Ilya. I know a guy that sparred them both. Like I said, one of my training partners said, wait till you watch this guy. Do you know what I thought? I thought he was very methodical. You've got Ilya, who's coming out, guns blazing, blasting your head clean off. It's like we've seen, like he's his coach, he's Ilya's coach, right? So he is obviously the more methodical, slower paced fighter, shown moments of brilliance in there. Boring moments as well, I'm not going to lie, but there was moments of brilliance in there as well. Obviously, you had the story with, you had Topuria in one corner, you had Volkanovski in the other. It made for, the whole story to come together like that. But I am actually excited about this guy. I really am. And I feel like there's levels and there's layers to him. It's his first fight. He's only 5-1, so he's brand new. You know what I mean? He's green. But after what I'm hearing from the training room and what I've seen, a couple of great moments in there, a lot of stagnant stuff as well. I'm actually excited for his future.
Mate, I could not agree more. One, you've got to take into all these things consideration, right? Your brother is in the conversation for the best fighter on the planet. His rise has been like that. So there's pressure on you. People are going, all right, the other one's coming here. Brilliant. Let's have a little bit of a nose here. And you've been his coach. You're the one that has relayed the information to your brother who's been so successful. So you should know, shouldn't you?
Exactly.
You know what it's like when you're in there. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get that flow going. And that flow comes from the confidence of being able to deliver it once you're on the mat. He's never been in that UFC octagon. Big show, lots of eyeballs on him throughout the course of the week, making the cut, all those types of things. It's a role reversal for him and his bro. And he's got a last-minute change of opponent. So there's loads of little things to be able to take into consideration with this scenario. As he gets more comfortable with it, it's going to be interesting to see if he goes at the same aggression rate as Ilya. Because I think you just nailed it there, mate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things when you're looking at the technique of it, you're going, all right, I see it. You're a Topuria. I see what you're doing. It's just that Ilya's now in that flow of, I'm the baddest MF on the planet, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's not even thinking about what he's doing. He's in the flow of doing it and just does it, and it's aggressive, and it's just bang on. Everything's on point with what he's doing. Whereas Alexandre hasn't had those personal experiences yet himself. And as he gets more confident, it's going to be interesting to see if he is as aggressive as Ilya. Because if he is, geez, man, Topuria brothers could take over. Because I think technically, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah. So what I find interesting with this whole scenario now, I think, right, your brother is a superstar, yeah? You're his head coach, but you're also trying to get there yourself. Now that leaves a very interesting dynamic because having personally fought on shows and cornering guys before my fights, I've been there, Adam, yeah? When you're trying to compete at this level, it's a selfish ass sport. It really is. Like, it's about you and you only. He's got to now think about his brother being the pound for pound number one in the world. That's where he's going. But then you're in the shadows because you're his head coach, but you're also his brother. And we've seen how tight these Georgian guys are with Merab and all of them together. That are a really tight unit, right? Now it just leaves for an interesting scenario of, will his brother's career take over and he'll have to focus on just him? Can he manage to bring himself up at the same time as his brother? I know it's a different outlook on the situation, but I look at it different because I see it because I've done it and I've been there and I've coached guys and I've tried to go to the elite level myself. It's a very interesting scenario that we find ourselves in with this. And it's going to be interesting to see the way it all plays out.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see them fight on the same card together unless they do something in Spain, maybe.
No.
That could be an option. But I think because Ilya's right at the top, the level of activity of Ilya is going to be maybe 2 a year. So therefore, that does leave gaps in the calendar for then Alexander needs to go and do his thing as well. But there's no switch off for either of them, is it? Mentally, you're constantly in fight. You're constantly in fight mode then, because one's looking after one's career, one's looking after the other. Like you say, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and whether they can all handle it. All in all, UFC 312. We told you. We said that.
We don't lie. We don't lie on there, do we?
Right. Listen, we said it wasn't sexy. The name value wasn't necessarily there. There's moments, of course. There's moments. But for me, the overriding thing that I take away from UFC 312 is Zhang Wei Li, as Brendan said, is the best female fighter on the planet. What she does next is really, really interesting. For me, it might be a step up in weight. And we can now shut the door on that scenario at middleweight, and we can move forward to some seriously exciting fights at 185. Fingers crossed we get them in the not too distant future. Just to finish off with it being Super Bowl Sunday, we've been doing loads of stuff on, obviously, the Chiefs versus the Eagles here on talkSPORT. And one man that was speaking about that because he's in town and going to the game was Dustin Poirier. He was, of course, as well as talking about the Super Bowl, he was talking about his own last dance, because he is going to have one more. The questions were thrown his way. He was talking about various opponents. And, familiar names did come up. This is what Dustin had to say.
When I look at your record, there's an argument, actually, that you've fought more big names than any other fighter. Who would be your toughest opponent you faced?
Man, that first fight with Justin Gaethje was a war. But also that Dan Hooker fight during COVID was a tough fight. You know, had to dig down. We're both bleeding. It was a dog fight. Those are the kind of fights I love, though.
What about Khabib?
That wasn't like a back and forth. You know, I got beat up pretty good. His wrestling, his skill set is so tough to deal with. I think that helped me prep for the Islam fight, though, just having felt their techniques and their strengths. They do things so differently. But the Gaethje and the Hooker fight were tougher fights.
You haven't fought since last year. I don't know. Where are you up to? You talked about retiring because the Nate Diaz thing won't go away. Is that a fight you want?
Oh, I would love to fight Nate, but the UFC doesn't want to do business with him, I don't believe. He's not in the organization anymore, and they're not even entertaining bringing him back. But my next fight will be my last fight. I'm going to put the gloves down. I'm just hoping to be able to do that here in New Orleans, Louisiana. You know, where I picked him up. I started fighting in Louisiana. I would love to retire here in Louisiana in the summer. And me and the UFC have been talking about this. They're trying to get the state of Louisiana on board, New Orleans on board, and we're pushing for the summer, so I really hope it comes together, man.
Have you ever thought about crossing over into boxing? We've seen it a few times, of course, most recently with Francis Ngannou. Is that something you'd do?
I would love to. I started mixed martial arts because I was boxing. I wanted to be a boxer. And then I found mixed martial arts and kind of transitioned into that, started doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. But, you know, when I do lay the gloves down, I'm not going to try to find these celebrity matchups or influencer fights and stuff like that. When I walk away, I'm done. I've just been fighting for 18 years, and when it's time, it's time.
The full interview with Dustin Poirier and the boys off Drive is available on the MMA YouTube channel right now. Go and get yourself stuck in. One of the coolest cats that I have ever met, Dustin Poirier. I was doing a thing ages ago talking about hot sauces. And guess what turned up in the post about 2-3 weeks later from America? Some Dustin Poirier hot sauce. I might even have the bottle somewhere knocking about around here. I normally have it in my studio. Fantastic stuff. I can recommend it. So if you've never had if you've never had Dustin Poirier's Louisiana hot sauce, he's got different ranges now. I'll tell you what, he's making a few quid off that little bad boy. Let me tell you, he's the lad. Get yourself stuck into it. Good stuff. Anyway, I don't know why I went off on a tangent talking about Dustin Poirier's hot sauce, because the man has got hot fists. And I absolutely would love to see him fight again. I know he came up short in his title attempt against Islam Makhachev, but it was a fantastic, fantastic fight. Makhachev's one of the pound-for-pound best fighters on the planet, so there's no shame in that. If he's having one last dance, I'm buying a ticket and I'm 100% going to be there. And as he was alluding to there, maybe some former foes will be the guy stood across from him. Hooker, Gaethje winner versus Dustin Poirier at the end of the year. What do you reckon, mate?
I know there's just a few other interesting names knocking about as well, Adam. Who would you like to see him against for his last dance?
You're a starer, aren't you? You're a starer. Listen, this division...
I don't know.
Listen, this division is incredibly interesting right now. I think we've got a weird scenario because Arman Sarukian I've been told, and this might not be factual, but Arman Sarukian is looking to get out as quickly as possible. He's actually looking to try and get out on that Miami card, which is coming up in April. Because of everything that happened, he wants to get the fight done, big contender, and he wants to be in that Islam Makhachev conversation for October time. So the names that are being floated around for Arman Sarukian are Michael Chandler. He's in that hunt. Michael Chandler wants to get out, and he wants to fight as well. But I was on the understanding that Michael Chandler was heading towards a fight with Paddy Pimblett. And that was going to materialize in the middle of the year. Obviously, if Chandler's going to be fighting Sarukian, that might not necessarily be the case. So Paddy Pimblett's obviously floating around. He's looking for an opponent, is he? Could Paddy Pimblett... Listen, I'm being 100% British here. Could Paddy Pimblett be thrown into the mix with Dustin Poirier for Dustin Poirier's last dance? It's a name that might work.
So I don't get how Adam Michael Chandler keeps getting these fights.
Name value. He's
entertaining.
Come on, he's entertaining, isn't he? He's 100.
Lad. On what planet does Michael Chandler deserve to be in the ring with Arman Sarukian right now?
No, you're right. If we're talking about the best guys against the best guys, for me, Arman Sarukian should maybe... Listen, Arman Sarukian, for me, should be fighting Islam Makhachev, but Dana White said that he needs to go and earn it. So if he needs to go and earn it, then, which I think is ridiculous, but if he does need to go and earn it, why not go and do 5 rounds against Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly my point. Michael Chandler's got 1 win against Tony Ferguson, and he's just, apart from that...
have a win over Dan Hooker.
I don't want to use the term...
He does have a win over Dan Hooker, does Michael Chandler, doesn't he?
No, but like, I'm talking like recently, and I'm just thinking like, we've just been seeing him getting absolutely battered at the highest level. Like, not even competitive fights with the elite guys. I just don't think he should be in there with Arman Sarukian, especially where Arman Sarukian's at right now in his career. It needs to be Islam Makhachev, and I can't believe we're going round the houses again. For what? For what? So there's one clear contender.
That's fair. What would you do then with Dustin Poirier? Who would you put him in with? Would you rematch? Would you go down the rematch of the winner of Hooker? Because we're getting Dan Hooker and Justin Gaethje, which is an absolute blockbuster. So brilliant. If Dan Hooker wins, he's going to be shouting for title contention, isn't he? Does Dustin Poirier coming off the title loss? Does that help? I don't know. I don't know how that works, mate, at 155 because it's a weird division. You just said yourself. There's one clear contender in Sarukian. Oliveira's in that mix. These 2 lads, Hooker and Gaethje, are still in the mix, even though there's losses in there for Gaethje and Max Holloway coming up. What's Max Holloway coming up? Max Holloway coming up. Is that the one for Dustin Poirier?
To fight Poirier, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, they've done it before. Obviously, Poirier.
I like that. I like that fight.
Obviously, won. You know. I think they've done it at 145 and at 155, so maybe these lads.
There you go, you nailed it. That's exactly the fight I'd like to see Poirier in. But like, I'm not being rude. Just take Michael Chandler out of the conversation now. Just don't put him alongside these names no more. He's not showing us that.
Look at it.
No, but
I like Michael Chandler.
Real,
he's
what
entertaining.
I've seen. No, I think he's great. I think he's he's earned his stripes. He's definitely one of them trenchmen as well, like we're talking about Dricus. He's up for it. But when you start talking about
title contender,
title contention, yeah, we are. But that's what if you're putting him against Arman Sarukian, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
I think
like we are. We're talking about a guy that should be fighting for the title, facing Michael Chandler, and I just don't think that's.
I know that.
I think it's a pointless fight.
That's fair. All right, sweetheart, calm down.
Yeah, sorry.
I know that Dustin.
I
know that Dustin shut this down, but I kind of wouldn't mind having a bit of a laugh with the Nate Diaz fight for the last dance.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know why you shut that down, mate. This is the type of fights people want to see.
Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz.
Imagine Poirier and Diaz for his last fight. Come on, Dustin, lad. Let's get it cracking, as Lewis McGuillan would say.
Get it cracking indeed, mate. Listen, whatever he decides to do, it's going to sell out, and people are coming out for the man that has paid the cost to be the boss, the one and only Lafayette King himself, Dustin Poirier. Great to have him on talkSPORT this week. Listen, mate, all in all, solid. UFC 312. has put to bed some things in certain divisions, and we can move forward. And hopefully UFC 313 with the big man himself, Poatan, chucking his arrows around against Magomed Ankalaev. There's a fight that'll wet your whistle and get you excited, won't it? So when we're previewing that, you can get all excited and get about that, can't you? Do like and subscribe the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Get stuck into it. Plenty of content coming your way as you get you closer to all the action that is on the horizon. Exciting times in the world of MMA. Me and Brendan will be back next week to pick the bones out of everything that's happening in the world of UFC. We'll catch you next time.